Let's look how you compare whole numbers and decimals. Whole numbers are simply the numbers. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So 283 is a whole number. 473 is a whole number. 8,258 is also a whole number. Whole numbers do not include fractions or negative numbers. So things like 2/3, -4, even decimal numbers, 0.23, which is 23 hundredths. Those are not whole numbers, even if we had a mixed number like 4 and 1/2. That is not a whole number. When we're comparing numbers, oftentimes we are given this instruction where it says compare using, and then it says greater than, less than, or equals. And then so we're comparing these two numbers here, and we're going to put in one of those in the blank there. So what we do is we take a look at these numbers, and what I like to do is I like to read them. And then so if I know if I'm reading them correctly, this says 23,762. This says 21,596. At that point, when I'm comparing them like this here, and I'm reading them correctly, then it helps me understand what symbol to place. I know that this is a 23,000ths number versus a 21,000 number, so I know 23,000 already is bigger than 21,000, so I can put the greater than symbol. Now, really looking at this carefully, I know that there's two 10,000ths here and two 10,000ths here. There's three 1,000ths where I go to the next place value because those first place values were the same. 3 thousandths here compared to 1,000, so that 3 1,000ths is bigger than, and I'm sorry, 3 thousandths is bigger than 1,000ths, so that 23,762 is greater than 21,596. I always check my work by reading that number sentence one more time to myself, and sometimes I can hear that mistake where I'm going, wait a second, that's not correct, and then so I can catch a mistake if I happen to make a mistake along the way. Again, I can start by reading the numbers 167,231, 87,208. Next step is just to go in there and look and be all, okay, let's see. We're comparing 1 here, and this 1 is worth 100,000. Oh, we're comparing to this 8. Oh, this 8, though, is worth 80,000. So this, even though this 1 here is less than this 8 here, we can't just write a less than sign there. And the reason we can't do that is because this 1 here is worth 100,000, whereas we would have a 0 right here. And sometimes I even like to place in that 0 like this here. And then that way I know that where I'm comparing 1 with 0, and 1 is greater than 0 because that 1 there was worth 10,000. Another way to think about this, if we just look at the thousands, 167,000 number compared with an 87,000 number, yeah, it's going to be bigger than, it's going to be greater than. Again, I'm going to read that whole number sentence again. Read it with me, please. 167,231 is greater than 87,208. Another method like some people like to try and like to use is they line up the digits. And the comma can help us line up the digits. And then what we do is we start from the greatest place value where we're comparing the 1 here. Oh, we're comparing the 1. Oh, there's nothing there. So this number has more digits, the 167,231. Oh, and compare the 6 with the 8 if we had a 1 here. But we don't have to do that anymore because we already know that 1 is bigger than 0. And that's another way that we can figure this out here. All right, this time we are comparing using greater than, less than, or equal. Now we have decimal numbers. I like to start with these decimal numbers by looking at the wholes. So I'm comparing 3 wholes with 3 wholes. And in this case, they're both worth 3. And then so, since they're the same, we move on. After the decimal point, I like to make sure that they have the same number of digits. And both of these have 2 digits after the decimal point. So they both have a tenths place and a hundredths place. We start with that next place. The tenths place, has the same digit in it. They both have the digit 1 in it, both worth 1/10. And then so we move on and compare the 7 with the 6. 7 hundredths is bigger than 6 hundredths, so that this is greater than that there. And again, I like to read it again. 3 and 17 hundredths is greater than 3 and 16 hundredths. Yep, that works. Again, looking at this here, I like to read each number. 8 and 26 hundredths, 9 and 1/10, and I look at the wholes. Okay, well, this one has 8 wholes, this has 9 wholes. I know that 8 is less than 9. So, at that point, I'm done. So that 8 and 26 hundredths is less than 9 and 1/10. The other thing that I didn't do with this one here, which some people might want to do, is to make sure that they have the same number of place values after that decimal point. So this one had 2 place values after the decimal point. Now this has 2. This final one is going to allow me to show you that strategy and approach that I also like to follow. We'll start with, similarly from the other ones there, where we'll start with the wholes. Okay, there's only 7 wholes here, 7 wholes here. Next place value is 6/10, 6/10, okay. 2 hundredths, 3 hundredths. And then so at that point we know that 2 is less than 3. So I can put a less than sign right there. Again, the reason that we might want to put a 0 there to make sure that they have the same number of decimal places is so that we can go like this, 7.630. And it's easier to line up at this point with our other decimal number to be able to compare them place by place by place. 2 again, less than 3. If we look back over here, we know that 7.63, or 7 and 63 hundredths, does equal 7.630, 7.7 and 630 thousandths. It is valid to add that 0 because those 2 numbers are still equal. It is time for you to try. Please go ahead and copy these problems down. Remember, we're comparing them greater than, less than, or equal. Hit pause. All right, I take a look at that first problem there. Compare the wholes, 3 wholes, 3 wholes. All right. Then we have 7 compared with an 8, 7/10 compared to an 8/10, and 7 is less than there. For that next problem, I would have also ended up with less than, and if I read that problem again, it's 8 and 25 hundredths is less than 14. I would have compared the wholes. 8 wholes is already less than 14 wholes. If I had lined those up, it's a common mistake. If I had lined those up, we would have had 14 and 1/10 there, and we already seen at that point that this has a tens place and this number does not. Some people, again, might have liked to have placed a 0 there just as a placeholder so they really know that we're comparing that same number of digits. For this next one, we're comparing a decimal number with a whole number. And so that whole number is 18. And that whole number can be rewritten so that we do have a decimal number, And to do that, we just add 2 decimal places to it, so we have the same number of decimal places. And some people might like to see it this way here, so they know they are comparing exactly the same number of decimal places. And we take a look at that whole number 17 is less than 18. So we know that 17 and 62 hundredths is less than 18. For our final number, we've got this number 23 and 68 hundredths, and then we have this number 3 and 721 thousandths. And then so, again, taking a look at those whole numbers there, we've got 23 up versus 3. And so that's the whole number part of our decimal number. And so we already know that 23 is bigger than 3, or is greater than 3. And so I'm done with my work there. I'll leave you with 2 last problems. And so in math, it's always great to check your work. So we have 36 and 231 thousandths, and 36 and 4 tenths. If I look at those numbers, right away I can be, okay, well, I think that's less than there, the way that I just read that. Then I can go back with that step and that approach. 36, okay, 36 wholes, same. 2 tenths, 4 tenths, 2 is less than 4. If I was being even more precise, I could be all, okay, well, I can go ahead and use this strategy, this approach right here, or even line them up so that I know, and comparing them once again, 2 is less than 4. Yep, I'm absolutely positive of my answer right there. It's much, much too easy to just write a greater than, less than, or equal sign, especially if we didn't go through those steps to like reread our number again. 36 and 231 thousandths is less than 36 and 4 tenths. And it's very easy to just put an answer right there and to put the wrong answer because you looked at it and you looked at it so quickly that you read things incorrectly or you saw it incorrectly. Again, same sort of thing, same sort of approach. 21 wholes. 21 wholes. Okay, that means I'm just comparing my decimal numbers after that decimal place. So if I put the 0 here, I know at that point that I'm comparing 653 thousandths with 730 thousandths. And right then and there I'm all, well, I know that 653 thousandths, and that's part of the, after the 21 wholes, is already less than 730 thousandths. Again, to check it, I can go ahead and go back there and be all, okay, well, here we go. Line them up, and I can go step by step. Okay, those are the same. 6 is less than 7, right, less than, and I read it again. And I read it back, this time without the 0, because this was our original problem. 21 and 653 thousandths is less than 21 and 73 hundredths. And that's what we do. That there is comparing not only decimal numbers, but also whole numbers. Like 23 versus 22 and 13 hundredths. Yep, that's greater than, because 23 already is bigger than 22.